All right. I don't know what I'm talking about. Today, I want to talk about being an AC and what that entails. Recently, I was on another film set and I was doing AC and I had the idea to just kind of share with you some of the tips and tricks I learned for being a good AC on set and what that entails. So an AC, pretty much their job is, like the title says, assistant cameraman, is to assist the cameraman. So whoever your cam op is or your cinematographer, my job would be to help him out in any way possible. The main thing I did was swap lenses, keep all the batteries we needed charged, and have just various things ready, like the ND filter, neutral density filter, ready for Pierre when he needed that and when he was going to shoot outside. So what I want to start off with is lenses, and the first tip and trick of working with lenses. So what I do on set is I work with a bag, so an AC bag. So how this works is, this is just like a shoulder sling type deal that I throw over myself like so, like this, and then I have easy access and I can pull it underneath my arm like this and then have easy access to lenses right here. So usually what I do is, obviously not all the camera stuff is going to fit in this, so there will be a main lens bag in addition to this bag. So that's how I work. So the lens kit or bag or box or whatever all the camera stuff should be in, it should be in one main kit. So everything all the way from down to step-up rings, to extra batteries, to battery chargers, ND filter, things like that would go in a case like that. But in something like this is the stuff that we need on the go and that is really essential for whatever shot we're getting. And so, for example, I put my favorite lenses in this bag. This can fit 3 lenses. So in here, we have one that fits in this like little pouch, and then one I can put underneath. So usually what I do is I take a 35, because this is Pierre's favorite lens, and so he usually uses a 35. And so this one I keep easy access, so I usually put this one on top. And then 85 is his second favorite lens, and so I usually keep this one in the bottom. So for this one, I would just slide that down to the bottom, and then this Velcro's here, and then this one would just kind of rest on top. And then I can close this and zip this up, and then I have both those lenses ready to go. Usually what ends up going here is the lens caps or the back caps. So for example, like if we were using this lens and we were swapping lenses, obviously I wouldn't want these on the lens, and so I'd take the other lens and I'd give this to him, and this would go in here, and then I would take the old ones from out of there and reattach them to that lens and put that in my bag. I also, in addition to keeping lenses in this bag, I like to keep extra batteries. So I have this fancy kind of pocket here on the side where I like to keep charged batteries, and so I just slide them into these little pockets here, and then I zip this up, and then I have easy to go batteries. And then also, since we were shooting RAW on the 5D, we needed card swaps a lot. Like, we needed to dump the footage quite often, and so I kept all the extra SD cards in here. So we had 3 cards, and I would just keep the fresh ones in here. So as soon as you get onto a location that you are confident with, like that you're not going to be moving around a lot and that you have a consistent power source, the first thing I do is I set up battery village. So the best thing to do is to have a power strip, which this is not a power strip, but it works for what I ended up doing this last weekend. A power strip kind of allows you to, plug in obviously, and then have multiple outlets for different batteries charging, because you're probably going to want to have a rough average of 4 to 5 batteries charging at one time. I also wanted to talk about these CP2 lenses. So depending on what film set you're working on, you're going to be obviously working with different lenses. This is a much nicer lens than these Rokinons here. And so something for like this example, I wouldn't trust in a bag like this, but and so I'd probably leave these kind of lenses in their case, and I would swap them out when we needed them instead of just having them on the go. Mainly because it's just so much nicer lens. Also, it's not going to fit very well in my bag, and I wouldn't want it to get damaged. But before changing lenses, you should always take off the lens cap, the base cap, and make sure there's no dust on any of the glass in there. It's kind of self-explanatory. You don't want your lens to be dirty before you shoot with it. And so if it is dirty, then you can either use the little blimp blow thing, or I like to use the lens cleaning cloths, because those, I don't know, they just work better, and I like to keep them in my pocket. It's best when two people do it, so one person has the lens ready, they take off the cap, and usually you cover it until you're ready to make the lens swap, and then as soon as the camera is free, the lens is free on the camera, you would go straight in, and then you twist, not for this lens, but you would normally twist until it clicks into place, and then you're free, and then you take that other lens from the cinematographer or whoever's helping you make the lens swap, and then you'd put a lens cap on that, and a base cap on that, and then that would go back into whatever lens kit or lens bag you had. Be very careful when changing lenses, because some of these lenses are, like, this is probably a $10,000 lens, and you don't want to drop a lens like that. Have an expo marker. So this is the first reason you should have an expo marker on you, is for when you're using a follow focus like this. So this attaches to the rails, and then this pulls focus. So these gears line up with the gears on the lens, and then that pulls focus for your camera. So depending on your cinematographer, you may or may not end up using the follow focus, but at least you should know how it works. And so assuming we needed to hit 3 different marks in the scene, so our first focus point is, say, here. I would put a mark here for 1, and then our next focus hit point is there. I'd put another mark there, and then our third, say, is there. And then I can know in the scene, when we're getting that shot, first point is here, and then you say action, and then the guy's walking, and so I can follow him walking into a second point there, and then really fast rack focus, because there's someone in the background or whatever, to there. There's usually 2 ACs on a set, the first AC and the second AC. Second AC typically takes control of the slate and everything that goes into with that. Something that's really handy is to take your marker and actually gaff tape it to the side of the slate like this. Just gaff tape the lid up there so that you never lose your marker, because I've lost so many markers on sets. Write down your scene, and then your take, and then the sound roll, whatever the sound file is, you would put that down so you can sync it up later. So if it's 189, then you can know in post, oh, okay, 1A take 1, the roll is 189, and you can sync up your audio really easily based on that. And then this would obviously increase 1 every single take. So it would become 190 for take 2. While they're actually rolling the take, I actually reset for the next shot. So I would get it all set so that right as they say cut, I can have this up and ready to go to be 1A take 3. Figuring out what lens you have on the camera is very helpful when knowing when to, for knowing how far to slate. So for example, if we were on an 85mm lens, then you would want to be 8.5 feet roughly away from the lens in order to slate. So right now we're on a 35, so I'd want to be 3.5 feet away, which is about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, probably about here, and that would fill the frame well, and then I could. Another thing you should have on you is a Leatherman. I don't have mine on me right now, so I won't show you, and I have a really cheap one and I need to buy one. But if you don't have a Leatherman, you should have just your pair of keys, mainly for tripods and camera support. It's keeping a lot of things in your head at the same time and always staying focused and on top of things. And as long as you do that, then you're not going to have too many problems. In your toolkit that you bring to set, you should have markers, batteries, a Leatherman, a bag of some sort. You can either do like a hip bag, or I like this bag because it swings over my shoulder. You should have a power strip or some sort of extension cable connector thing for more than one outlet. Typically they'll provide you a slate, but I'm going to end up buying my own slate soon because the slates fall apart pretty easily, and I want a slate that is reliable and that I can always use on set. Gaff tape, you should also have gaff tape. Add that to your equipment list.